Hello everyone, I'm Shukriya Rai Chaudhary from Swami Vivekananda Institute of Modern Science, and today I would like to talk about cryopreservation, that is, cryopreservation of plant material, its technique and applications. Cryopreservation is derived from the Greek word cryos, which means frost. So, cryopreservation literally means preservation in the frozen state. The principle involved in cryopreservation is to bring the plant cell and tissue cultures to a zero metabolism or non dividing state by reducing the temperature in the presence of cryoprotectants. Cryopreservation broadly means the storage of germplasm at very low temperatures over solid carbon dioxide at minus 79 degrees C, low temperature deep freezers at minus 80 degrees C, in vapor phase nitrogen at minus 150 degrees C, or in liquid nitrogen at minus 196 degrees C. Among these, the most commonly used cryopreservation is by employing liquid nitrogen. At the temperature of liquid nitrogen, that is minus 196 degrees C, the cells stay in a completely inactive state and thus can be conserved for long periods. In fact, cryopreservation has been successfully applied for germplasm conservation of a wide range of plant species. For example, rice, wheat, peanut, cassava, strawberry, coconut, etc. Several plants can be regenerated from cells, meristems, and embryos stored in cryopreservation. Now we move to technique of cryopreservation. The technique of cryopreservation is based on the transfer of water present in the cells from a liquid to a solid state. Due to the presence of salts and organic molecules in the cells, the cell water requires much more lower temperature to freeze, even up to minus 68 degrees C compared to the freezing point of pure water, that is around 0 degrees C. While doing this process, two major considerations have to be taken into account. First is the susceptibility or degree of freeze tolerance displayed by a given genotype to reduced temperatures. And second is the formation of ice crystals within the cells. Now, the technique of cryopreservation involves following stages. First is the development of sterile tissue culture. Second is the addition of cryoprotectants and pretreatment. Third is the freezing. Fourth is storage. Fifth is thawing. Sixth is reculture. Seventh is determination of viability. And eighth is plant regeneration. So first we move to development of sterile tissue culture. The ability of the explant to survive in cryopreservation depends upon the morphological and physiological characters of the explant. Now, any tissue from a plant can be used for cryopreservation. For example, meristems, embryos, endosperms, ovules, seeds, cultured plant cells, protoplast, calyces. Among this, meristematic cells and suspension cell culture in the late lag phase or log phase are most suitable. Now, the next one is addition of cryoprotectants and pretreatment. Cryoprotectants are the compounds that can prevent the damage caused to cells by freezing or thawing. The freezing point and supercooling point of water are reduced by the presence of cryoprotectants. As a result, the ice crystal formation is retarded. during the process of cryopreservation. There are several cryoprotectants which include dimethyl sulfoxide, propylene, sucrose, mannose, glucose, proline, acetamide, glycerol, and ethylene. Among these, dimethyl sulfoxide, sucrose, and glycerol are most widely used. But dimethyl sulfoxide is considered to be the excellent cryoprotectant because of its low molecular weight, easily miscible with solvent, it is non-toxic at lower concentrations, easily permeable into the cells, and easily washable from the cells. Generally, mixture of cryoprotectant is considered to be more effective. For example, mixture of sorbitol and dimethyl sulfoxide, where sorbitol reduces ice crystal formation and dimethyl sulfoxide reduces cellular dehydration. Now, pretreatment is required in the explant to desiccate it into low moisture content without losing its viability. Pretreatment includes following method: air desiccation freezing, pre-growth desiccation, encapsulation dehydration, and vitrification. Now we move to third stage, that is freezing. The sensitivity of the cells to low temperature is variable and largely depends on the plant species. Four different types of freezing methods are used. First is slow freezing method, second one is rapid freezing method, third one is stepwise freezing method, and the last one is dry freezing method. So first we move to slow freezing method. The tissue or the plant material is slowly frozen at a slow cooling rate of zero point 0.5 to 5 degrees C per minute from 0 degrees C to minus 100 degrees C and then transferred to liquid nitrogen. The advantage of this method is the plant cells are partially dehydrated and survives better. This method is successfully used for the cryopreservation of suspension cultures. Now next we move to rapid freezing method. In this technique, plunging of the vial containing plant material into liquid nitrogen takes place and there is a decrease in temperature at minus 300 degree to minus 1000 degrees C per minute. The freezing process is carried out so quickly that the small ice crystals are formed within the cells. This method is used for the cryopreservation of shoot tips and somatic embryos. Now we move to the third method, that is stepwise freezing method. This is a combination of slow and rapid freezing method. This is carried out in a stepwise manner. First, the plant material is cooled to an intermediate temperature and maintained there for about 30 minutes and then rapidly cooled by plunging it into liquid nitrogen. This method is successfully used for the cryopreservation of suspension culture, shoot apices, and birds. Now we move to the last method, that is dry freezing method. In dry freezing method, the non-germinated dry seeds are cryopreserved. Now we move to fourth stage of cryopreservation technique, that is storage. Maintenance of the frozen cultures at the specific temperature is as important as freezing. In general, the frozen cells or tissues are kept for storage at temperatures in the range of -70 to -196 degrees C. Storage is ideally done in liquid nitrogen refrigerator with constant supply of liquid nitrogen. The ultimate objective of storage is to stop all the cellular metabolic activities and maintain their viability. It is necessary to check the viability of the germplasm periodically in some samples. Proper documentation of the germplasm storage has to be done. The documented information must include following particulars: taxonomic classification of the material, history of culture, morphogenic potential, genetic manipulations done, somaclonal variations, culture medium, growth kinetics. Now next we move to fifth stage of cryopreservation technique, that is thawing. Thawing is usually carried out by plunging the frozen samples in ampoules into a warm water bath with a temperature of 37 to 45 degrees C with vigorous swirling. By this approach, rapid thawing occurs and this protects the cells from damaging effect of ice crystal formation. As the thawing occurs, ice melts completely and the ampoules are quickly transferred to a water bath of a temperature 20 to 25 degrees C so that cells do not get damaged. Now we move to sixth stage of cryopreservation technique, that is reculture. The thawed germplasm is washed several times to remove cryoprotectants and this material is then cultured in fresh medium following standard procedures. Now we move to next stage of cryopreservation technique, that is determination of viability. The viability or the survival of the frozen cells can be measured at any stage of cryopreservation or after thawing or reculture. It involves staining technique and it uses following stains like triphenyl tetrazolium chloride, that is TTC, where the living cells appear pink in color. In Evans blue stain, dead cell takes the blue stain whereas the living cells remain unstained. In fluorescent diacetate, the living cells appear green in color. The viability of cryopreserved cells can also be measured by their entry into the cell division and regrowth in culture. This can be evaluated by following expression, that is number of cells per organs grown divided by number of cells per organs thawed into 100. And last we will discuss about plant regeneration. The ultimate purpose of cryopreservation of germplasm is to regenerate the desired plants. For appropriate plant growth and regeneration, the cryopreserved cells or tissues have to be carefully nursed and grown. Addition of growth promoting substances and maintenance of appropriate environmental conditions is necessary for successful plant regeneration. This is the pictorial representation of cryopreservation technique. In this picture, shoot tips are first surface sterilized and then cultured on semi-solid media. After culturing of shoot tip, addition of cryoprotectant is done. So here we can see that dimethyl sulfoxide is used as cryoprotectant. After addition of cryoprotectant, the shoot tip is frozen in liquid nitrogen and then it is stored in liquid nitrogen refrigerator with constant supply of liquid nitrogen. Now, if we want to further use this stored shoot tip, then thawing process should be done. So thawing is done in warm water bath so that ice can melt completely and shoot tips can be used for further culture. So after thawing process, determination of viability of shoot tip is done so that the viable shoot tip can be cultured on semi-solid media for plant growth and regeneration. The precautions of this technique are formation of ice crystal inside the cells should be prevented, high intracellular concentration of solutes should be prevented, certain solutes from the cell may leak out during freezing. That has to be checked. Cryoprotectants may affect the viability of cells, so the viability of the cells should be measured periodically. The physiological status of plant material is also important. Now we will discuss about the applications of this technique. It helps in the conservation of genetic material. Endangered species can also be conserved. It helps in the conservation of pollen for enhancing longevity, conservation of somaclonal and gametoclonal variations in cultures, long-term conservation of cell culture. It helps in the maintenance of disease-free stocks, rare germplasm developed through somatic hybridization and other genetic manipulations can be stored. It is a good method for selection of cold resistant mutant cell lines which could develop into frost resistant plants. It helps in the establishment of germplasm banks for exchange of information at the international level. Apart from applications, this technique has got some limitations too. It requires greater skill in handling and maintenance of culture. It requires sophisticated facilities. Plants may show genetic variability. Cells or tissues may get damaged. It is genotype dependent. Now we have come to the end of presentation. Thank you for patiently hearing.